بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Go ahead. You don't have to stand up.
This is the tradition now.
Yeah. All right. Fulfill the tradition then.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من توضأ فأحسن الوضوء ثم أتى الجمعة فاستمع وأنصت غفر له ما بينه وبين الجمعة وزيادة 3 أيام ومن مس الغضب
مس الحصى
فقد لغى من حصى فقد لغى رواه مسلم.
All right, so hadith number 33. All right, get those sins forgiven. All right, so this is also talking about the mukaffirat, because all these 32, 33, 34 is talking about the mukaffirat. I mean, the things that get the small sins forgiven, because obviously those are the things that we need to get forgiven the most, because they happen a lot. They happen more regularly, and even they can happen, and we're not even paying attention. We're not even aware. So we need as much of those sins forgiven as possible. As far as the kaba'ir, I mean, if a person is falling into major sins, they should be very aware that they're falling into major sins, and that's his or her responsibility to be aware about what the kaba'ir are, what the major sins are, so they can avoid those major sins. Because, I mean, you should know if you're doing something from the major sins. I mean, the minor sins, you just do things, you just don't. This is out of ghafla, just out of ghafla. I mean, you can imagine, because we live in America, how many of these minor sins you just pick up. I mean, you just stockpile throughout the day, just walking around. I mean, you got to drive. You can't lower your gaze when you're going through a parking lot, or because you're going to hit somebody and you're going to see something. I mean, here you're going to see more than what you bargained for on a daily basis. So it's just like those sins are going to happen. They're going to happen. You go into the store, you go all of these places, even as much as we try to avoid, like even me, after I think 10 o'clock, I don't do shopping. 10 o'clock in the morning, my shopping is done. I don't want to go in this. I want to go to the supermarket when the old ladies are working, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like the old people are shopping. I was joking the other day with my sons. I was like, see, I said, we shop at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. I said, this is when all the white people come out of Fresno. I was like, I don't see these white people on the west side. I was like, to see them at 7 o'clock in the morning shopping in the supermarket, that's it. It's like, there's all the white people, mashallah. I guess they're in the north or somewhere else. I don't know. Where does Fresno hide the white people? Clovis, okay. This is like the first time seeing, I guess you could say, my own kind, 7 o'clock in the morning in the supermarket. So almost and the gas station. And then nobody want to go to the gas station at 9 o'clock at night. But anyway, so so the main thing is just to get these sins forgiven. You want to because you don't know. We don't know what we're going to answer for on the day of judgment, so we want to do as much of these mukaffirat as we can. So this is another one, and like I said, hadith number 33, 34 is going to basically be dealing with that issue, 32, 33, 34. All right, so عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الصلوات الخمس والجمعة إلى جمعة ورمضان إلى رمضان مكفرات لما بينهن إذا اجتنبت الكبائر. رواه Muslim. So Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, he reported that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said that the 5 daily prayers and al-jumu'ah ila jumu'ati, and the jumu'ah ila jumu'ah, from Friday to Friday, wa Ramadan ila Ramadan, and from one Ramadan to the next. Mukaffiratun lima baynahunna. So this is an expiation for the sins between the two. So between each salat of the 5 daily salawat, there's an expiation of the sins. So when you pray, and then you pray again, there's an expiation from the sins that might have occurred, those minor sins that occur between those 2 prayers. All right? And then when you pray again, there's an expiation for for those 2 prayers. And it keeps going and going and going, inshallah, until you die. And the same thing with the Jumu'ah, because now we have an expiation for the entire week for those sins that we gathered in the Ramadan for the entire year. So here we have the daily, 5 times a day. Then we have a weekly, and then we have a yearly. And so, well, all of these things are only lima baynahunna. So it is a mukaffirat between the two. إِذَا اجْتُنِبَتِ الْكَبَائِرِ. As long as the person avoids what? The major sins. So that means if he falls into the major sins between the 5 daily prayers, or between the 2 Jumu'ahs, or between Ramadan, does that mean now that he does not get the mukaffirat?
If he does the major sins, then لا. Because the Prophet said, إِذَا اجْتُنِبَتِ الْكَبَائِرِ.
So إِذَا اجْتُنِبَتِ الْكَبَائِرِ, then he gets the mukaffirat.
Well, maybe I understood your question wrong. Can you?
I'm saying, if the person falls into the major sins, like for example, from one prayer to the next, he falls into a major sin. Or one Jumu'ah to the next Jumu'ah. So he comes in, he prays Jumu'ah. Then he goes out that night and does something from the major sins. And he does this every week. Or Ramadan to Ramadan, that maybe like a lot of Muslims, they start to get religious only in Ramadan, right? So they want to try to make up for all this. So does he get expiation for his sins? Those smaller sins, if he is falling into these kaba'ir between these things? Because see, and it's a rahmah. If you really look at the mercy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it so easy for us to get our sins forgiven. Because one, we have Ramadan to Ramadan. That's an entire year. Now, the vast majority of the Muslims are not going to be able to go an entire year without falling into a major sin. So if he falls into major sins, then he doesn't get that expiation of Ramadan to Ramadan, because why? He didn't avoid the major sins. So he doesn't get that. But now he gets another opportunity weekly, from Jumu'ah to Jumu'ah. All right, so you can't make it through the whole year without doing a major sin. Can you make it at least 1 week? 7 days, can you do that? But he can't. So he falls into a major sin after every Friday night or every Saturday night Islamically, and he's out there just committing fawahish. He's smoking weed, he's messing around with girls, he's doing whatever is from the major sins, right? And then bam, now he doesn't get the mukaffirat. He doesn't get the mukaffirat between the Jumu'ah and the Jumu'ah. But now it's like, okay, but he prays 5 times a day. Can you make it from one salat to the next salat without falling into the kaba'ir? No, the majority of the people can't. So again, we see the levels of the believers. So we got the sabiqun al-awwalun, we got the sabiqun ila al-khayrat bil khayrati, and then we got the muqtasid, which he'll be able to fulfill all 3 of these. But the zalim li nafsihi, he's not. Either one, he might be able to make it week to week, but he can't make it a whole year. Or he can make it salat to salat, but he can't make it an entire week. But the muqtasid and the sabiqun bil khayrat, they can do that. They can make it through the whole entire year without falling into the kaba'ir. And it's not saying that, okay, if you fall into the kaba'ir, but now if you fall into the kaba'ir, you fall into one of the major sins, and you make tawbah for, something could happen, you fall into something, but then you feel very regretful for it, and you make tawbah. So that puts you back on track of getting what?
Oh, getting the mukaffirat.
Yeah, because that sin now, inshallah, you make tawbah. If you make sincere tawbah, you repented in a sincere manner, inshallah, that sin gets wiped out anyway. But if the person is musir, and he's continuing to do these kaba'ir, and he's not making tawbah from them, and then, from one salat to the next, and from one Jumu'ah to the next, and from one Ramadan to the next, and he's not even getting these smaller sins forgiven. So now think about it now, the person comes on the Day of Judgment, and, just imagine now. Imagine now what he has to answer for. Now he's got to answer for the major sins that he did, and then he's got to answer for all those minor sins that were not forgiven because he couldn't avoid falling into the major sins, and he wasn't making tawbah from them. So, every opportunity is presented to us. Every opportunity. As we're going to see, inshallah, tomorrow in Hadith number 34, we're going to see that again. That, there's even easier and even more opportunities to get these sins forgiven. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse on the Day of Judgment for somebody to come and say, oh, I didn't know, or it was too difficult, or it was, Allah made everything. And then that's why you see the Prophet ﷺ said in the Hadith, Yusuf. وَمَنْ يُشَادِّدْ دِينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَهُ. You know, so that this religion has been made easy for the people, and nobody tries to take that road of severity and harshness in this religion, and trying to take on more than he can bear, and trying to, he's harsh on himself and he's harsh on others, except for that the religion will overtake him, and he'll be washed out. He'll be washed out. So Allah musta'an. There's no excuses, inshallah. No excuses. Excuses are for people that don't really care about the akhirah. Allah musta'an. إلهنا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
الأعذار للمثل ما يعرفون شيء والآخرة. الأعذار للمثل ما يعرفون شيء والآخرة. يعرفون ما كان فالأعذار.
ما يبالون.
من أعظم العقوبات الجهل. من أعظم عقوبات الجهل. That's like